My friends, before every sunrise, there is darkness. Before every breakthrough, there is a battle. And before every blessing from God, there are signs. Divine whispers that tell your spirit, something great is coming. When God is about to pour His favor on your life, He doesn't do it silently. He prepares your heart. He positions your circumstances, and He allows certain things to happen so you can carry the weight of His blessing. Today, I want to share with you 7 powerful signs that God is getting ready to bless you beyond imagination. When your life feels shaken, but not destroyed, it is often a divine signal that something greater is being built within you. It's a moment when everything familiar begins to tremble, relationships fall apart, opportunities vanish, and the path ahead becomes uncertain. In those moments, many people cry out, "Why is this happening to me?" But if you look deeper through the eyes of faith, you'll realize that the shaking is not meant to break you. It's meant to reposition you. God allows the shaking to loosen your grip on what can no longer sustain you so that He can guide you toward what will fulfill you. Every blessing requires a foundation strong enough to hold it. Just as an architect tests and strengthens the ground before constructing a skyscraper, God often tests and strengthens your spirit before building a greater future in you. The discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure. It's preparation. God cannot fill a vessel that is already full. He must first empty it. When your world feels like it's collapsing, it might actually be God clearing away the debris of old dreams, expired friendships, or limited visions that no longer fit where He's taking you. There's a divine rhythm in how God works. Before He multiplies, He breaks. Before He promotes, He tests. Before He builds you higher, He shakes your foundation to make sure it can bear the weight of your destiny. Think of an eagle teaching its young to fly. The mother eagle stirs up the nest, removing the soft feathers and comfort, so the eaglet feels discomfort and learns to spread its wings. Without that shaking, the eaglet would never fly. Likewise, God sometimes stirs your comfort zone, not to punish you, but to awaken your potential. In times of shaking, people often misinterpret the process. They think God has abandoned them when, in truth, He's closer than ever. When everything you leaned on begins to move, you discover that God is your only true stability. The shaking teaches dependence on Him alone. Many people want blessings without the process, glory without growth, and success without surrender. But real transformation comes only when you allow God to shake away everything that no longer aligns with His purpose for your life. Consider the story of Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, but before those dreams could come true, his entire world was shaken. Betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. His life looked like a series of tragedies. But through every shaking, God was repositioning him. What seemed like downfall was actually direction. Each painful step moved Joseph closer to the palace. When the famine came and Pharaoh sought wisdom, Joseph was ready, stronger, wiser, and humbled by the journey. The pit was not punishment, it was preparation. The prison was not the end, it was the training ground. And when Joseph finally rose to power, he could look back and say, "What others meant for evil, God meant for good." That's the power of divine shaking. It turns your lowest moments into the foundation for your greatest victories. When your life feels shaken, the right question isn't, "Why me?" but "What is God preparing me for?" Because every closed door is not rejection, it's redirection. Every ending is not loss, it's a hidden beginning. Sometimes God must remove people who limit your growth or take you out of places that restrict your potential. You may not understand it in the moment, but later you'll see how every painful shift was necessary for your destiny. The job you lost may push you to start the business God always intended. The relationship that ended may lead you to discover your worth and independence. The season of isolation may give you the focus to develop the gifts that will change your future. The truth is, God shakes your life only when He's about to bless you in a greater way. The shaking is a heavenly signal that the old chapter is closing and a new one is about to begin. What you thought was falling apart is actually falling into place. When you choose to trust Him through the tremors, you begin to see His hand guiding you even in chaos. And when the dust settles, you realize the shaking didn't destroy you. It refined you. It taught you faith that cannot be shaken. So when your heart feels heavy and your plans crumble, lift your eyes and say, "Lord, I trust you." Because if you are still standing, if your faith is still alive, it means the shaking did not destroy you. It means you are ready for what's coming. Remember, before every sunrise, there's darkness. Before every blessing, there's a shaking. Hold on through the storm, for when God finishes shaking your world, He will fill your life with blessings that will make you forget the pain of yesterday. Example, imagine a farmer preparing for harvest. Before new seeds can be planted, the soil must be plowed, turned, broken, and shaken apart. To the untrained eye, it looks like destruction, but the farmer knows it's necessary for growth. The same is true in your life. God is plowing your soil, breaking up old ground, so that your life can bear greater fruit. So don't fear the shaking. It's proof that a harvest is coming. There are moments in life when everything seems to be going well, yet deep inside, you feel an unexplainable restlessness. You can't quite put your finger on it. It's not sadness nor frustration, but a stirring in your spirit that whispers, "There's more." This feeling doesn't arise because something is wrong with your life, but because God is preparing to shift you into something greater. This is what we call divine restlessness, a holy dissatisfaction that refuses to let you settle for mediocrity. When God is about to bless you, He first awakens your spirit. He disturbs your comfort so that you won't stay in a place that no longer fits your future. God never allows His chosen ones to get too comfortable in yesterday's blessings. What once felt like a perfect fit begins to feel tight, like a shoe you've outgrown. That restlessness is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the divine nudge that says, "You were made for more than this." Too often, people mistake this feeling for confusion or burnout, but in truth, it's God's way of expanding your capacity. You might feel a sudden urge to change directions, to pursue something new, or to leave behind what no longer fulfills your purpose. It's not rebellion, it's revelation. God is inviting you into a higher dimension of your calling. When you experience that inner stirring, it can be unsettling. You start questioning everything. Your job, your relationships, your goals, even your dreams. It's as if your heart is restless while your mind tries to keep things normal. But that's the very moment when faith must rise above comfort. God does not reveal the whole picture at once. He plants the seed of desire for something greater, so that you begin to seek Him more deeply. This restlessness pushes you into prayer, reflection, and surrender. It forces you to ask, Lord, what are you preparing me for? Many people pray for blessings, yet when God begins to stir their hearts, they resist it. They want increase, but fear change. But divine restlessness is God's gentle way of telling you that your current chapter is ending. It's not that where you are is wrong. It's that you've completed your assignment there. When your spirit no longer finds peace in what used to satisfy you, it's a sign that heaven is calling you higher. That feeling of discomfort is your spiritual alarm clock ringing, reminding you that there's more to be done, more to become, more to give. This inner restlessness is also a test of trust. Will you obey God's whisper even when you don't see the next step? Will you walk by faith, not by sight? Sometimes God doesn't open a new door until you're willing to close the old one. You must be brave enough to leave the familiar to step into the fruitful. The unknown can be intimidating, but remember, God never stirs your heart without preparing your steps. He never gives you divine dissatisfaction without divine direction. Think about Abraham. He lived comfortably in Ur, surrounded by wealth and family. Yet one day, God placed an unexplainable stirring in his heart. A call to leave everything familiar and go to a land he had never seen. Abraham could have ignored that feeling, reasoning that life was already good enough. But that inner restlessness was heaven's invitation to destiny. When Abraham obeyed that holy nudge, he walked into a covenant that would bless generations after him. If he had ignored the restlessness, he would have missed the promise. That's how God works. He awakens your spirit before He expands your territory. Sometimes this restlessness will isolate you for a while. You may not be able to explain it to others, because what God is doing in your spirit is personal. You'll feel like you're caught between where you were and where you're going. But that's not confusion. It's transition. The caterpillar doesn't understand why. It suddenly feels trapped inside a cocoon. It only knows it can't stay the same. Yet that confinement is necessary for transformation. Likewise, when your soul feels unsettled, God is birthing new wings within you. You're being prepared to soar to a higher level. The key is to listen carefully to that restlessness and respond with faith instead of fear. Don't rush to fill the silence or numb the discomfort. Sit with it. Pray through it. Let God reveal what He's shaping inside you. You may be on the verge of a major breakthrough, but if you silence that holy stirring too soon, you might miss the doorway to your next season. Divine restlessness is often the prelude to divine release. Example, imagine a bird sitting in a nest high in the tree. For days, the mother bird feeds it, shelters it, and keeps it warm. But one day, the bird starts feeling uneasy in that once comfortable nest. The space feels smaller, the walls tighter. That restlessness isn't a mistake. It's a signal that the bird has grown wings strong enough to fly. When the mother finally nudges it out, the little bird flaps in fear, but soon discovers the wind beneath its wings. What seemed like a frightening push was actually the beginning of freedom. In the same way, when God stirs your heart with restlessness, He's not trying to make you fall. He's teaching you to fly. So when your spirit feels unsettled, even though life looks fine, don't ignore it. That's not confusion. That's calling. God is stirring your soul because He's preparing you for something higher. Trust the process. Lean into the divine restlessness, for it is not the end of peace, but the beginning of purpose. Your wings are ready. Heaven is simply waiting for you to spread them. When God is about to bless you, one of the clearest signs is that opposition suddenly increases. The moment you step closer to your destiny, the resistance becomes stronger. You'll notice people beginning to misunderstand you, circumstances turning against you, and plans that once flowed easily starting to fall apart. It feels as though life is fighting you at every corner, but this is not coincidence. It's confirmation. The enemy never attacks what poses no threat. The storm does not rise against emptiness, it comes against purpose. If you are facing unusual resistance, it is a sign that heaven is preparing an unusual blessing. Before every promotion in life, there is always pressure. When God opens a new door, the adversary tries to keep you standing outside it. The attacks, the confusion, the disappointments, they all come to test your endurance and to see if your faith is real. You are not under attack because you are weak. You are under attack because you are carrying something powerful. The greater the calling, the greater the opposition. Pressure is not punishment. It is proof that something valuable is inside you. When gold is placed in the fire, it's not destroyed, it's purified. Likewise, when God allows you to walk through opposition, it's because He is refining you for the promise that awaits. There's a deep truth about the way God works. Every victory must first pass through a battle. There is no crown without a cross, no triumph without testing. When the pressure increases, it's easy to believe that God has abandoned you. But the truth is, He is right beside you, strengthening your spirit through the storm. The opposition you feel is not a sign that God's plan is failing. It's a sign that His plan is succeeding. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the more the enemy trembles. He knows he cannot stop God's blessing, so he tries to stop you from believing long enough to receive it. Think of it like this. When a woman is about to give birth, the pain intensifies just before the baby arrives. The contractions grow stronger and closer together, but she doesn't interpret that pain as punishment. She recognizes it as the final stage before delivery. In the same way, when your spiritual pain increases, when challenges become heavier, when things seem to fall apart, it's not because God has forgotten you, but because you are about to give birth to the blessing He promised. The opposition is the labor that delivers your destiny. You may find yourself surrounded by critics or doubters, people who once supported you, but suddenly question your path. Don't be discouraged by their voices. Every time God elevates you, He separates you. The noise of opposition is often a sign that He's shifting your circle to make room for divine favor. Sometimes God even allows enemies to rise so that your victory will be visible. If there were no Goliath, David would have remained a shepherd boy. It was the presence of the giant that revealed the warrior within him. The same God who allowed the battle will use it to announce your breakthrough. In moments of intense opposition, your faith must anchor you. Fear will tell you to quit, to retreat, to stop believing. But faith says, keep walking. The walls of Jericho didn't fall when the Israelites complained. They fell when they kept marching in obedience. When life presses you from all sides, that's the time to hold tighter to God's promises. The enemy's goal is to make you doubt, but your endurance will prove your readiness for what's ahead. God doesn't bless those who run from battles. He blesses those who fight through them with faith. There's another layer to opposition that often goes unnoticed. It exposes what's truly inside you. When you face resistance, your hidden strengths come alive. You discover courage you didn't know you had, patience you never practiced before, and wisdom that grows only through struggle. Opposition matures you for the blessing. Without it, you might reach the destination, but lack the character to stay there. That's why God doesn't remove every obstacle. He uses them to build your spiritual muscle. Example, consider the story of Daniel. When God was about to promote him to a position of great influence, opposition suddenly arose. Jealous officials conspired against him, and soon he found himself thrown into the lion's den. It seemed like the end, but it was actually the stage for a greater miracle. God shut the mouths of the lions and brought Daniel out unharmed. The very opposition meant to destroy him became the testimony that elevated him. Without the lions, Daniel would have remained unnoticed. With them, he became a symbol of faith across generations. That is the mystery of divine opposition. What is meant for harm becomes the very thing that reveals God's glory in your life. So if you find yourself under pressure, misunderstood, rejected, or surrounded by challenges, don't panic. Heaven is still in control. The greater the warfare, the closer the breakthrough. The fire you feel today is proof that the gold of your purpose is being refined. Keep praying, keep believing, keep standing. You are not losing ground. You are being positioned for elevation. Opposition is not the end. It is the final confirmation that God's blessing is about to break through the clouds of resistance and pour over your life. Hold on. The blessing that's coming will make every battle worth it. When God is about to bless you, one of the clearest and most personal signs is that the old things in your life begin to lose their hold on you. What once excited you suddenly feels empty. The places you used to go, the people you used to rely on, the habits that once brought comfort, all begin to lose their grip. It's not that you've become cold or detached, it's that your spirit has outgrown the old version of yourself. You are being prepared for a higher calling, and for that new level of blessing, God must first free you from what no longer aligns with your destiny. Many people misunderstand this process and think they're losing direction or passion. But in truth, God is transforming the desires of your heart. He is cleaning out the clutter of yesterday to make space for the abundance of tomorrow. It's like a gardener pruning a tree. From the outside, pruning looks harsh. The branches are being cut away, and the tree appears smaller. But the gardener knows that without this process, the tree cannot bear new fruit. Likewise, God sometimes removes the old attachments, not to hurt you, but to help you grow stronger and bear greater fruit in the next season of your life. There comes a point in your spiritual journey when you begin to notice a divine shift within. Things that once satisfied your emotions no longer fulfill your soul. You may even feel guilty for not enjoying what you used to love. But that's not guilt, it's growth. The Spirit of God is quietly rearranging your priorities so that your heart is no longer tied to temporary pleasures, but to eternal purpose. The music changes, the conversations change, your goals change. You stop craving validation from others because you begin to realize that peace is worth more than popularity. Letting go is not easy. It's painful to release habits or people that were once part of your identity. But God cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. If you try to hold on to the old while reaching for the new, you'll only create conflict within yourself. There's a reason certain relationships suddenly fade or certain opportunities close. It's not rejection, it's redirection. God removes what no longer serves your purpose so that your hands are free to receive what's truly meant for you. Sometimes you'll notice that old conversations begin to bore you or old environments drain your energy. This is not a sign of arrogance but of elevation. Your spirit is being tuned to a higher frequency. What once entertained you now exhausts you because your mind is aligning with divine purpose. The appetite of your soul is changing. And just as a child loses taste for baby food as they grow, you are losing taste for things that no longer feed your destiny. The hardest part of this process is when it involves people. There will be friends who cannot understand your change. They'll say you've become distant or different. And in some ways, they're right. But you can't explain spiritual evolution to those who are comfortable staying where they are. Sometimes God separates you not because others are bad, but because your journeys no longer align. If you keep trying to hold on to everyone and everything, you'll delay your growth. You cannot walk into your future carrying the weight of your past. There's also a deep spiritual cleansing that happens when old desires fade away. You might lose interest in gossip, envy, or competition. You'll find yourself hungering for peace instead of attention, for truth instead of comfort, for purpose instead of applause. This is how God renews your mind. He takes away the appetite for small things to prepare you for something greater. And when that happens, you must trust Him enough to let go, even when it feels lonely. Because in the silence that follows, you'll begin to hear His voice more clearly. Transformation always begins with subtraction before addition. God takes away before He gives, prunes before He promotes, empties before He fills. So when you start losing interest in things that once defined you, don't fight it. Thank Him for it. That fading desire is a divine signal that your next chapter is near. The old season has served its purpose. Now it must make room for new blessings. Example, imagine a caterpillar preparing for transformation. One day, it stops eating leaves, the very thing that once sustained it. To someone watching, it might seem strange, even concerning. But that hunger loss is not sickness, it's readiness. The caterpillar has reached a stage where it must let go of what once fed it. because it's about to enter the cocoon and emerge as a butterfly. Its nature is changing, its desires are shifting, and its future no longer fits the ground it used to crawl on. In the same way, when your spirit begins to lose its appetite for what once satisfied you, it means you're about to soar. So, when you feel that divine detachment, don't fight it. Don't try to force what God is fading. Instead, open your heart and say, Lord, I trust your timing. Because what He's removing today is preparing you for what He's about to release tomorrow. The things falling away are not your loss. They are the clearing before your blessing. When old things lose their hold on you, it's not the end of something precious. It's the beginning of something powerful. You're not breaking down. You're breaking through. And soon, you'll look back and realize that everything God took away was making room for everything you were meant to become. When God is about to bless you, one of the most beautiful and undeniable signs is the sudden appearance of divine connections. These are not random encounters or coincidences. They are carefully orchestrated meetings arranged by heaven itself. Divine connections are people sent by God to guide uplift, and sometimes even challenge you into becoming who you were always meant to be. They show up at just the right time, often when you are standing at a crossroads, confused or uncertain about your next step. They carry wisdom, encouragement, and sometimes resources that align perfectly with your purpose. When God is ready to elevate you, He rarely does it in isolation. He does it through the right people. These connections can come in many forms. A mentor who speaks truth into your life, a friend who refuses to let you give up, a stranger who offers an opportunity that changes your path, or even an adversary whose resistance shapes your strength. Each one plays a divine role. God knows that blessings require structure and support, so He sends people who complement your calling. They carry what you need and often need what you carry. This mutual exchange becomes the foundation for growth, purpose, and breakthrough. Too often, people miss these divine appointments because they expect them to arrive in grand or obvious ways. But God's messengers don't always come wrapped in perfection. Sometimes they come as humble helpers, unexpected allies, or voices that challenge your comfort zone. When God wants to bless you, He doesn't just give you things. He gives you people. These are kingdom relationships, built not on convenience, but on purpose. They pull you closer to God's plan and push you further into your potential. You'll notice that before every major shift in your life, someone new enters your path. It might seem coincidental, but in God's timing, there are no coincidences. Think about it. When David was anointed to be king, he didn't ascend immediately. But God connected him with Jonathan, Saul's son, who would later protect him and help him survive. That relationship was divine in nature. It preserved the promise until the right time came. Similarly, Ruth's divine connection with Boaz transformed not only her destiny, but also her legacy. She went from gleaning in a field to owning it, all because of one connection orchestrated by God. Divine connections are bridges to destiny, but they often come with tests. God wants to see if you can recognize and honor the people He sends. Sometimes we sabotage divine relationships through pride, impatience, or mistrust. We must learn to discern the difference between people who are seasonal and people who are sent. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay, but everyone who is sent by God is meant to shift something within you. They carry divine keys, insight, faith, encouragement, or opportunity that unlock the next door of your journey. When these connections appear, your spirit will recognize them even if your mind doesn't. You'll feel a sense of peace, familiarity, or purpose that words can't explain. It's as if you've known them for years. That's because, in the spiritual realm, your paths were destined to cross long before you met. God designs these intersections so that your strength meets their weakness, your vision meets their resources, or your faith meets their doubt. In divine connection, both people are sharpened, strengthened, and elevated. Sometimes, divine connections also come through separation. God removes certain people to make space for new ones. It may feel painful, but it's necessary. He knows that you can't receive new direction while surrounded by old voices. When you feel people drifting away or doors closing, don't cling in fear. The same God who allows departure also orchestrates arrival. If someone leaves, trust that someone better suited to your new season is on their way. The connections that God sends won't drain you. They'll develop you. They'll challenge your faith, align with your purpose, and help you step into your next blessing. One of the surest ways to prepare for divine connections is to remain open, humble, and prayerful. Ask God daily to order your steps and align your relationships with His will. He knows who belongs in your future and who doesn't. Sometimes, your blessing is hidden in a conversation you haven't had yet, a handshake you'll soon make, or a partnership you've yet to recognize. Be sensitive to His leading. The person you help today might be the very one God uses to help you tomorrow. Example, consider the story of Elijah and Elisha. Elijah was a mighty prophet, used by God to perform miracles and speak divine truth. But when his time was coming to an end, God orchestrated a meeting with a young man named Elisha. This encounter wasn't random. It was destiny. Elisha wasn't seeking fame or power. He was simply plowing his field when Elijah passed by and threw his mantle over him. That simple act changed everything. Elisha left everything behind to follow Elijah, serve him, and learn from him. Years later, Elisha inherited a double portion of Elijah's spirit and carried his mission further than anyone expected. That single connection shaped the course of both their lives and impacted generations. That is the power of divine connection. One meeting, one handshake, one act of obedience can change everything. So when new people enter your life, don't dismiss it as coincidence. Pray for discernment, because the person you meet today could be the key to your next miracle. God uses people to prepare you, position you, and propel you. Your next blessing might not fall from heaven. It might walk right into your life. Stay alert, stay humble, and recognize the divine hands arranging your path. When you do, you'll see that every connection has meaning, and every meeting is part of a master plan designed by the One who knows exactly how to get you to your destiny. When God is about to bless you, one of the clearest signs is that your faith will be tested like never before. It is during this period that everything you believed in begins to shake. The promises that once felt certain may start to feel distant. The doors that seemed open suddenly close. You pray, but heaven feels silent. You believe, yet nothing seems to change. It's as if God is hiding, watching, and waiting to see what you will do when your faith is all you have left. This is the testing ground of destiny, the space where your spiritual muscles are stretched and your trust in God is refined. It is not punishment, it is preparation. When God tests your faith, it's because He wants to build something greater within you. Every blessing requires a foundation strong enough to hold it. And faith is that foundation. Faith is not truly faith until it is tested in the fire of uncertainty. It's easy to believe when everything makes sense, but true faith shines when nothing makes sense at all. This is where you learn that believing in God is not about seeing results. It's about trusting His heart when you cannot trace His hand. The testing of faith often comes right before breakthrough. It's the season where you feel pressed on every side, yet somehow, a quiet voice inside says, "Hold on." That whisper is the Spirit of God reminding you that He hasn't forgotten. He is not late. He is working behind the scenes, even when you can't see it. The challenge is to remain steady when everything around you feels unstable. When God allows you to walk through hardship, it's not to destroy you, but to develop you. He is teaching you to stand on promises instead of feelings, to walk by faith instead of sight, to believe even when your situation contradicts your prayer. Faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. Think about it. A bridge is only proven safe when heavy weight passes over it. Similarly, your faith is proven genuine when it carries the weight of delay, disappointment, and difficulty. The greater your calling, the greater your testing will be. That's why some seasons feel so intense. You're not being punished, you're being promoted. God allows tests to reveal what's inside you, not to Him, but to you. He already knows your heart, but you need to discover the strength He's planted within it. In the Bible, there are countless examples of men and women whose faith was tested before their blessing came. Abraham waited for years for the promise of a son. God told him he would be the father of nations, but time passed and nothing happened. His faith was tested through delay, doubt, and impossibility. Yet when it seemed too late, God fulfilled His word, proving that faith in Him is never wasted. The same pattern appeared in the life of Joseph. He dreamed of leadership and favor, but before the dream came true, he faced betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Every test shaped his character until the day came when he stood before Pharaoh as second in command. His faith was tested not to break him, but to prepare him to handle the weight of his destiny. When your faith is being tested, you may feel like you're walking through fire. Everything inside you may scream to give up. But that fire is purifying you. It's burning away fear, pride, and doubt so that only pure trust remains. Just as gold is refined through fire, your faith grows radiant through trials. And when you come out of that season, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more anchored in God than ever before. What seemed like a setback will turn out to be the stepping stone that led you into your promise. There will be moments when you cry, pray, and still see no sign of change. In those moments, remember that silence is not absence. God is watching your perseverance. Every tear you shed becomes a seed for your blessing. The test is not meant to destroy your faith, but to deepen it. If you keep standing, keep believing, and keep worshiping even in the darkness, you'll soon see light breaking through. Every great blessing is preceded by a season of testing, and those who endure the test with faith always receive the reward. Example: consider the story of Peter walking on water. When Jesus called him out of the boat, Peter stepped out in faith, doing the impossible, walking on the waves. But when the wind grew stronger and the waves rose higher, fear crept in and he began to sink. Still, in that moment of failure, Jesus reached out his hand and lifted him up. Peter's faith was tested in the storm, and though he faltered, that test strengthened his trust. He learned that even when his faith wavered, God's hand was steady. Later, that same Peter became the bold apostle who led thousands to Christ, no longer shaken by fear. That's what happens when your faith is tested. You move from believing in God to truly knowing Him. You realize He doesn't fail. You understand that even when He seems silent, He's shaping your destiny. So when your faith is stretched beyond what you can bear, don't despair. The test is a sign that your blessing is near. The greater the test, the greater the testimony. Hold on, keep trusting, and remember, gold doesn't shine until it's been through the fire, and neither will your faith. One of the most powerful signs that God is about to bless you is when you begin to feel a deep, unshakable peace, even while storms rage around you. It is that strange calmness that doesn't come from circumstances, but from something greater, something divine. You may be facing uncertainty, financial challenges, emotional pain, or fear of the unknown, yet within you there is a quiet stillness that cannot be explained. This peace is not denial of reality. It is faith in motion. It is the assurance that no matter what happens, God is in control. When you sense this peace, it means heaven is close and your breakthrough is near. God often gives peace as His signature, a divine confirmation that His hand is upon your life. When the world shakes, but your heart stands still in trust, it's a sign that you've entered into alignment with His will. Many people look for external signs of blessing, money, opportunity, applause. But the truest sign of all is internal. It's when your soul rests in God, even before the promise comes. Peace is not the absence of storms. It's the presence of God in the storm. This peace doesn't always make sense to those around you. Others may see your situation and wonder how you can smile, how you can continue moving forward, or how you can keep faith when everything seems uncertain. But you know something they don't. You know that God's promises are not tied to your present chaos. You know that the same God who spoke peace to the raging sea can calm the turbulence in your life. You trust not because everything is perfect, but because you know who holds everything in His hands. Sometimes before God releases a blessing, He tests whether your heart can remain peaceful under pressure. He wants to see if you can trust Him when things don't go your way. Because true peace is not built in moments of ease. It is born in moments of struggle. When you can rest in God's love while everything around you shakes, you demonstrate maturity of faith. You show that your belief in His goodness is not conditional upon your comfort. That is the kind of faith God honors. This peace also protects you. In Philippians, Scripture calls it the peace that surpasses all understanding, and it truly does. It guards your heart and mind like a divine shield. When you walk in this peace, anxiety loses its power. Fear can knock, but it cannot enter. Worry tries to whisper, but it cannot take root. It's as if God wraps your soul in quiet confidence, reminding you that everything will unfold in His perfect timing. And even if you don't know how, you know that He will make a way. When God is about to bless you, He gives you peace before He gives you proof. This is because peace is the evidence of faith. It is the divine confirmation that something beautiful is about to happen, even if it hasn't manifested yet. You begin to feel lighter, more grateful, more trusting. You stop striving and start surrendering. You stop trying to force outcomes and start resting in His promises. That rest is the resting place of miracles. It's in that posture of peace that blessings flow effortlessly, because your heart is no longer filled with worry, but with worship. This peace is not something you can manufacture. You cannot fake it or find it through human logic. It is a gift from God. It often comes after you've cried, prayed, and wrestled. It arrives quietly, like the dawn after a long night, and suddenly you just know everything will be all right. You can't explain it, but you can feel it. That's when you know the storm is almost over and the blessing is near. The peace of God doesn't wait for the situation to change. It changes you first so you can handle what's coming. Example, imagine a small boat caught in a violent storm. The waves crash, the wind roars, and fear fills the hearts of everyone aboard. But one man, sitting near the center of the boat, remains calm, his eyes closed, whispering prayers. Others shout, "Why aren't you afraid?" And he replies softly, "Because I know who's in control of the sea." That man's peace doesn't come from ignorance of danger. It comes from confidence in the power of his Creator. This is exactly what happened to Jesus' disciples on the Sea of Galilee. While they panicked, Jesus slept peacefully through the storm. When they woke him, he simply spoke, "Peace, be still," and the winds obeyed. That is divine peace. It doesn't ignore the storm, it transforms it. In your life, when you reach the point where you no longer panic at every setback, where you trust that even closed doors are part of God's plan, and where you can smile while waiting, that's when you know you have stepped into divine peace. It's not that your situation has changed, it's that you have. And when you have that inner stillness, blessings begin to unfold effortlessly. So if you find yourself surrounded by chaos but your heart feels strangely calm, don't question it. That is God's whisper saying, "I am with you." It's His assurance that the storm will not last forever and that your waiting has not been in vain. This peace is not a pause before disaster. It is the breath before breakthrough. When you can stand still in peace despite the storm, you are standing at the threshold of your blessing. My dear friends, blessings are not random events. They are divine seasons carefully prepared by the hand of God. When these signs appear, don't panic. Don't run. Stand firm. Rejoice. God is about to reveal what He has been preparing in secret. The shaking is not punishment, it's preparation. The restlessness is not confusion, it's calling. The opposition is not destruction, it's confirmation.